the Converted Man here. Today I'm going to do more answers that I got for the questions that we asked the creationists. I'll read what they wrote and then comment about their answer. And I think that this will be the last time, for a while at any rate, that I do this. Haven't received any responses from any of the people that I've responded to in this way. So the conversation isn't continuous, and I don't see a reason to keep doing this, that being the case. What I'll do from now on is I'll ask them, if I did a video, will they respond? And then I'll do a video, and then if they didn't respond, well, then they're a liar. But at any rate, that's what I'll do. If you want to answer them, please feel free. Use the footage. Do whatever you want to do with that. At any rate, these answers come from Daniel Nyheim 3. Yeah, I mispronounced that. Feel free to call me Demoted Man. At any rate, here are his answers. Here we go. His answer here is sometimes. When? What's the criteria for determining that? We need more information from you. His answer for this one is that he doesn't accept Pascal's wager as a valid argument. I love that answer. Good answer. It's a bad argument. It's logically flawed. You shouldn't accept arguments that are logically flawed. He says, one time, yes, the uniformity of nature has changed. For example, nature can't create life that changed at least once. My response? How do you know that? First and foremost, how do you know that once was the only time that God changed the uniformity of nature? Not several times. Wouldn't the miracles be violations of the uniformity of nature? In fact, for them to be miracles, wouldn't they have to be non-natural? This one's almost painful. A combination of the teleological argument, Kalam Cosmological argument, and the historical evidence for the resurrection of Christ lead to the conclusion that Christian God is the right one. No, they don't. All of those things are invalid argumentations. There's no historical evidence for the resurrection of Christ, by the way. That's a meme propagated by theists. So it's not there. It's not true. There's one story about Christ, and then 3 stories based on that story, and that's it. And then you've got 1, maybe 2 historians who mention Christians, but never Christ specifically. And then one of those historians had a forgery put in, making what other things that he might have said about Christ suspect. So no, there is no historical evidence for the resurrection whatsoever. Period. The Kalam Cosmological argument is invalid. I don't know which teleological argument you're referring to, but all the ones that I've looked at are invalid. So why would you accept invalid argumentation when a moment ago you didn't? He says it's not really a practical experiment, but I'll go with Hadaline's dilemma, which is a thought experiment. If our genome is 3B base pairs long and we share 99% with chimps, that would mean there's a difference of 30 million base pairs. These 30 million base pairs evolved in the last 5 million years. Evolution predicts the speed of evolution of 6 base pairs per year. That is 6 mutations were selected by natural selection or genetic drift and became fixed and dominant in a population per year. In reality, not even one such mutation has been observed. I can't speak to the science on this, but I doubt very, very strongly that evolution predicts how often mutations will occur. And if they are only occurring every 6 base pairs per year, then we would see it if that is what is occurring. Otherwise, the prediction is wrong. So we could, if that's what the prediction is, and we're failing to see the results, then the prediction would have changed by now. So that's one thing. Secondly, it's a thought experiment, not an actual experiment. So that too is wrong. And finally, the appeal to ignorance. We've never seen it, so therefore that means it's wrong. No, even if we haven't seen it, it doesn't mean anything. But if we are predicting something and we're failing to see that come true, then the prediction would have to change. So if what you're saying is true, then the prediction would have changed by now. But I doubt very seriously that what you're saying is true. And without any sort of source to where you're getting this data or information about how biological evolution makes these predictions, I have to be skeptical about this answer. I'll let someone else deal with the science, the hard science on this at any rate, but there's enough logical fallacies to remain skeptical of this answer. He says, for example, please provide an example with an actual paper that describes how the dating was done. After you do that, I'll tell you what is wrong with the dating technique. You'll tell us, really. Wow. So, don't bother. Don't bother. You find those papers, and then you write up what is wrong with that dating technique, and you submit that to a scientific peer review, and when you get the attention that you will get from the scientific community for showing that they're wrong about something, then you can come and tell us what's wrong with it. You might have certain things that you say are wrong with different dating techniques, but whatever you say doesn't matter until it's peer-reviewed by actual scientists who have actually done the work. So you're going to dismiss carbon dating or other radiometric dating techniques or whatever the technique was used. You're going to say, oh, no, that's wrong because of blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. Do you have degrees in that? Where's your papers on how we should date things? And where's your predictions from the correct way of dating things? If you want evidence, that's great. That's wonderful. It's available to you. Asking us for it, that's good. That's a good thing to do, yes. But if you want to prove us wrong, you can't just say, well, I know how the dating's wrong. You have to demonstrate that you have the expertise to show us that the dating is, in fact, wrong. I highly doubt that you've published a single paper in the scientific community. But you're welcome to show me that I'm wrong on that. And I also highly doubt that you have any way to predict the age or tell the age of anything at all that has also been accepted within the scientific community. And again, I could be wrong. And finally, yes, if we're going to be in the realm of science, we have to be in the realm of science, not in the realm of philosophy or of logical argumentation. In this case, the authority of the peer review is the filtering mechanism that we have to utilize to get to whatever the truth is. And if you want the paper that says, here's how old it is and how we know, I like that that's something you want. I'm embarrassed that you don't get it yourself. That kind of suggests to me that you're not willing to do the research. And I would also want the same level from you. If you don't have any published scientific papers, then why should we listen to you? They say, I'd like to see evidence for that claim. Creationists tend to be happy with both professional and popular debates. Evolutionists are the ones who openly admit that they are not interested in debating creationists. So you want evidence for the claim, the question, that implies that there is no debates happening on scientific forums. All you would have to do is demonstrate one example of a science forum where there was such a debate, and you could then say, here's a reason that your question is malformed. But I like that you want evidence for this, but there's a problem there, because we could present a number of scientific forums and say, see, and we're like, well, there's one out there that you don't know about. You haven't shown me all of them. So this is something that we think is true, and that we're assuming that is true. And if you want to show that it's false, then all you need is one counterexample. It's weird how you want evidence on certain things, but then you don't want evidence on other things. I don't get that. And then you said, well, evolutionists don't want to debate creationists, but yet they have. Bill Nye versus Ken Ham, for example. And here is something where it's not even a debate, it's a joke. Ken Ham, we base everything on the Bible. Nothing more than a circular argument. Nothing more than faith. Bill saying, we want a piece of evidence. Just give us an evidence. Give us a prediction. This isn't science. And Ken Ham essentially admits that it's not science. He just says, well, we have a lot of creationists that are scientists. That doesn't make creationism a science. And that is a problem. The reason it most likely isn't debated on science forums, and again, one example is all you need to show that the question is somehow flawed, is because it's not science. His answer is, this entity is by definition spaceless. Well, by your definition, by perhaps some of monotheism's definition, but not by everybody's definition. What the bleep does spaceless even mean, though? What does that mean? If you're spaceless, you don't occupy anywhere, so you don't exist. So you're saying that it's defined as not existing? I guess. Going to the tautology of the definition to answer the question doesn't answer the question. It's spaceless, that's how it can perform actions when there's no space. That doesn't really explain how, it just explains what it is. It also is spaceless. How is it doing anything? That isn't answered, that isn't addressed by the tautology. If science disappears, there'd be more problems than if religion disappears. Wow. An answer I'm in agreement with then. This is twice that we've received an answer to this question that makes me want to ask the next question. Why would you be part of something that you recognize is harmful for society? Why not try to get rid of religion then and promote science, since you recognize religion bad, science good, and then why promote anti-science when that isn't good? Before I read the Bible, and to be honest, I haven't read all the Bible yet, and to be honest, I don't understand why this is a relevant question. Well, I'll answer why it's relevant, because this is an information gathering video. We're trying to understand better how people come to this conclusion of creationism. So, you said you're a creationist before you read the Bible. Well, then, who taught you these ideas? Was it your parents, or your church, or something else that you read that told you that these were the ideas to agree with or believe in? That's what we want to know. It's extremely relevant to understand that for us, because we want to change the ideas that you have. We don't want you to be a creationist anymore. To clarify, you can still believe in God, but we don't want you to disbelieve in biological evolution or the age of the earth, not because we told you that they're true, but because the evidence tells us that they are true, and we don't want you to deny science anymore. We want these questions to do two things: make you think deeper about it, and also to enable us to understand the origins of creationism better, so that we can be better able to deal with it in the future. So it's extremely relevant. He says, I don't know. Okay, that's an honest answer, but if God is killing people when God could have done it a different way, and God is said to be loving, this is not a loving act. Killing people that you didn't need to kill is not a loving act. Plus, it gets even worse if we include the idea of hell, which some Christians do and some Christians don't. But it gets even worse because those people were allowed to propagate the earth with God's full knowledge that they all were going to hell in the end. That their lives and their deaths meant nothing in the bigger scheme of things. That's not love. That is psychotic. Neanderthals were human. Both fossil and genetic evidence confirmed that they could interbreed. It's weird how this person picks and chooses when to agree with science and when not to agree with science. So Neanderthals way older than 6,000, 7,000, or 8,000 years old. So they were way back then, and Noah would have been one of them or been a prior human before we were human. So evolution did happen, but they're still humans-ish, I guess. Whatever. Moving on. He says again, I don't know. Okay, honest answer, but let's think about this. I'm the ultimate authority, period. You should do what I say, because if you don't, it's probably going to be really bad. So you're going to do what I tell you to do. I say don't kill people. You're like, alright, I'm not going to kill anyone. Kill someone. What? But what am I supposed to do now? You just told me not to, and now you're telling... How? I can't comply without breaking your command. It's a paradox. It's a contrary position to what you just said to do. There's no way to do that. He says, I don't know. Again, an honest answer, but again, why wouldn't we be the best of the best of the best? Even allowing for sin to ruin us to some degree, why wouldn't we be better than all the other creatures around here? Perhaps, may I suggest, the actual explanation is biological evolution did, in fact, occur. And if you want to still keep God, then God wound that process up somehow, and we have no proof of that. But nonetheless, if you want to keep God, fine. He's way back there. He wound everything up. We can't prove that, but that's what you're going to posit. Okay, fine. But then biological evolution did in fact occur, and that's why we're not as good as we could be. He says, yes, for example, creationists predicted that the appendix was not a useless organ. Hey, remember when you asked us to provide papers, and I kind of went on a little rant there, saying, that this is something, you wanted evidence. You wanted evidence that the scientific forums don't debate this. You wanted a paper that showed the age when you don't have credentials to show what the age is not. You remember all of those things? Yeah, I want the paper from a creationist that predicts that the appendix is not a useless organ, and how they decided that. They just said, hey, this is a publication by creationist Joe Bob, whatever. I'm predicting that the appendix will not be a useless organ because God doesn't make useless things, even though he doesn't make us as good as he could make us. But nonetheless, the appendix will be a useful organ. Just wait, you'll see. And then science came along and verified that that was the case. Where's that paper? It's interesting that you want us to provide evidence and links to papers, but you don't produce your own links and evidence to papers. It's very interesting how that works. Because God explains things like the origin of the universe. So does magic. So why is there magic instead of not magic? Because magic explains the things like origin of the universe. It's not really an answer, is it? Oh well, moving on. I didn't understand the question. I'm not sure how I can clarify this. So the popular mythology, theology of Jesus' death for many Christians is that Jesus' death is the final ultimate sacrifice required by God to pay for the sins of the world. Okay, great, wonderful. Why is there still sin in the world? If it's been paid and covered, then why does it still exist? Why didn't it wipe it out instead of just paying for it? Because now there's something else that humans have to do. They have to accept the payment of their sins or whatever. They have to believe in it. They have to agree with it, or however you want to put it. So it didn't really do anything other than create a religion that some people will never know about. So it's not a perfect solution, and I would expect a perfect solution from a so-called perfect God. Would you name an example of reality, in quotes, that contradicts my position? Sure, the Earth is 4.54 billion years old. That contradicts your position. Biological evolution did in fact occur. That contradicts your position. There you go. Adam and Eve had many sons and daughters. How do you know? It doesn't say that in the Bible. Now, somebody said that it indicates that in the genealogies, but I think that there's a really, really big stretch to get to that. And only the male child is mentioned, never the female. So where does it mention the females at all? He says, I don't know. Okay. I don't know either, but isn't this something worth pondering? Like, what was God doing all that time? And somebody said, well, there wasn't time. Okay, what was God doing? Still, there's all this eternity, whatever that is, where God wasn't doing anything. He says, I don't think that there are any other species that belong to the platypus kind. I don't think. I'm not going to research it, but I just don't think it. My brain hurts. Moving on. He says, I don't understand the question. Well, this is actually a haiku. That's might be why it was a little bit harder to understand. But it's saying, is logic part of faith or not? I don't think that it is. The typical way faith is defined is a belief without proof. A belief in things that are hoped for. Things that are unseen. So in other words, in things that have no empirical evidence or repeatable test. Well, faith is just belief. It's not data. It's not fact. It's not something you can test. So that's not logic. And that should be something that is a problem. It should get you to think about it. And perhaps the last line of the haiku is something worthwhile doing. Fear thy religion. Perhaps you should be afraid of your religion. After all, you yourself admitted earlier that without religion the world would be better. Yes, I claim that dinosaurs coexisted with humans, and my coherent evidence for this is ancient dinosaur drawings. Around 80% of the questions... Wait a minute, hold on. Alright, take my beautiful face down. Alright, so this is my question, so I am going to eat his... answer here for a moment. Please indulge me. This is nowhere near a logically coherent argument. What's so funny is, yet again, you state something is true and provide absolutely no links to back up your claims. And you want us to do that. It's just really hypocritical, really funny to me that that's what you've been doing this whole time. But anyways, even if there are ancient dino drawings, which I doubt very much that there are, but you can show me that I'm wrong. Give me a link to a scientific source that is in the creationist webpage, and I'll agree with the data if it's there. That doesn't mean that they saw dinos. It could be a creature that looked like a dino. It could have been that they saw the bones of dinosaurs, so they drew what they thought that they might look like. There's multiple possible explanations, even if that is the case where there are dino drawings. And there would have to be multiple dino drawings of every single, or at least most of the dinosaurs. There'd have to be a lot of dino drawings around the world to be stronger evidence. But you know what would be even better evidence? Fossils of humans with the dinos. We never found that. Their bones aren't even in the same strata as our bones are found. Dino bones are way deep down. So, no to this as even approaching a logically coherent argument. Then he complains that 80% false statistic of the questions, meaningless statistic of the questions don't have to do with the evolution versus creationism controversy. There's no controversy. Biological evolution is a fact. Creationism is made up bullshit. That's it. Your creationism is nothing more than a false doctrine promoted by false prophets that is a disease that is hurting the Christian community. You deny science not based on evidence, not based on data, not based on actual science, but because some pastor, preacher, minister, etc. told you to believe in this nonsense, and you did. You went along with it. And now, as a older person, perhaps adult person, you have adopted more sophisticated ways to say the same BS as you did as a child. But it's still the same BS. You're not looking into it. You're not investigating it any further. You're just accepting that it's true because you think that it somehow is linked to your God, when it's not. It is a false teaching, a false doctrine. It is vile and evil and wrong because it harms society, and it does something that I like in that it makes less people go to your religion, but as it's doing that, it also makes more people stupid because now they're denying science. It's creating a stumbling block, which is something that your religion says not to do, but you're doing it by promoting this anti-science. And you're doing it not based on actual science, but based on beliefs and doctrine. And there's theological reasons that it should be annihilated, and there's scientific and logical reasons why it should be annihilated. Keep your belief in God if you have to. If that's something you just can't let go, I'll live with that. I will agree to disagree with you on that point, but get rid of this creationism nonsense. It's poisoning your mind and poisoning the mind of others and harming our society. America is second on the lowest of the countries. There's one other that's worse than us, of people who disbelieve in biological evolution. We should be the highest one. We should be the world's leader in science and technology. You know who has that title? Japan. Japan has the title of leader of technology and science acceptance. Not America. And people wonder why things are bad. Well, duh. We're not producers anymore. We're consumers. Don't get me started. But anyways, look. There's a lot of reason why America sucks. But look. My point is... Forget about all that. Because my point is... Biological evolution is a fact. The Earth is 4.54 billion years old. That's a fact. If you want to deny these facts, please crawl into your cave and seal the cave and go away, because I don't want you part of my society anymore. Or, how about this? Stop denying it, not because I told you to, but say, you know what? Maybe I haven't done the research. Maybe I need to start doing real research. And maybe, just maybe, you'll understand that data and you'll come to accept it because the overwhelming data confirms that it's true. Unless and until you come to that point, you will remain forever under a false prophet and false teaching that is creationism. And if your religion turns out to be true, you will be cast in the lake of fire because you followed the false prophets. Hey, I'm just telling you what your own theology tells you. I'm Deconverted Man, and unless and until we have a logically coherent argument, we have to stay skeptical of the conclusions.